Dan Dick out here for the Field of 68 Media Network's Bulldog broadcast. Well, Gonzaga. Well, first off, I want to apologize. We're 2 days late on releasing today's episode. Uh, as we get into the bulk of the season, try to have some guests and needed to reschedule with our upcoming guest. He's the current radio analyst for the Oregon Ducks. He was a all-time great at the University of Oregon. He was a longtime NBA player, played overseas for a number of years. Luke Jackson. He'll be joining us at the second portion of today's Bulldog broadcast, where we talk about the Oregon Ducks, who they are, what they're about, and how they can make this game interesting. Because I think they're extremely talented. They just haven't been able to put it together for a number of reasons. They've had injuries. They haven't gelled quite well, but I think they have a lot of talent. So Luke Jackson will join us at the second portion of the Bulldog broadcast, but wanted to quickly look at Gonzaga, sitting currently at 11-1 after beating Campbell last night, 98-70. It was one of the weirdest games I've ever had to call as a television color analyst. There wasn't a lot of energy in the building. Gonzaga didn't play particularly well outside of Braden Huff, but they still come away with a 98-70 victory. Braden Huff, as mentioned, 37 points, made his first 13 shots from the field. I believe he ended up 16 of 18 from the field. When you're talking about efficiency, that's about as good as it gets. I mean, it was unbelievable. He scored in a number of different ways. Had a couple putbacks on the offensive glass. Had some great post moves. Had some good high-low duck-ins where he was the seal guy. But he continues to improve. I thought Graham Ike was good with a double-double. But he wasn't his normal self. I think a little bit of that was due to the fact that sometimes you look at non-conference opponents and who they try to take away. I thought that Campbell tried to take away and frustrate Graham Ike more so than they did Braden Huff, and obviously that came back to hurt them. I thought Mario St. Superi struggled a little bit. Now 8 games into the starting lineup, you're still getting improvement week over week, but you're still seeing some flashes of what was he thinking their plays. I thought Braden Smith had a couple nice stretches off the bench. Tom Grant Foster, in my eyes, struggled, was 1 of 5 from the field, I believe, 2 points. Their teams are just gapping him. I mean, he's at the 3-point line and they're playing 6, 7 feet off, daring him to shoot. And so that's something that he's going to have to figure out, and the staff will help him work through that. Adam Miller didn't play a ton of minutes last night. Innocenti, I thought was great defensively, didn't provide a lot of pop on the offensive end. But you really didn't need much because when you look at it, Huff was so good, allowed you to get off to that dominant start. So Gonzaga, that 98-70 win, you have coming off the heels of what I really think is a good UCLA win. That's always a game that has become a staple of Gonzaga's schedule over the last 10 years or so. Matchups with UCLA. Last year at the Intuit Dome, they lost. This year in Seattle, they won. UCLA is just a well-coached basketball team. I don't think they have the overall depth and talent that they've had in years past, but they're still really good. They were ranked 25 when Gonzaga won. I think that's going to end up being a quad 1 win. It might slide down to a quad 2 once you get in deep into the Big 12 season. But I think, when you look at UCLA, they control the tempo, and I thought for the most part they did control the tempo. Gonzaga was able to push it to their pace on a number of occasions, but it was a grinder game more so than a free-flowing up and down game. And so that's why it leads me to believe that, once they get into the Big Ten, UCLA is going to grind out some good wins. Whether it's at USC, they already won at University of Washington, which I think is going to be a surprise team in the Big Ten this year. But they're going to find a way to win some games, whether it's, you know, I mean, I don't want to say it's at Michigan because clearly they're one of the top three, four teams in the country, but they're going to find a way to get way to win a game at Indiana, maybe at Purdue, maybe at Rutgers. Some of these ones that elevate as quad one or quad two road opportunities, that's going to elevate UCLA to be a really solid win for Gonzaga at the end of the year. In that game, what I saw was, Graham Ike was dominant. He looked like back to his normal self. Number of finishes at the rim with pop, with explosiveness, the ability to kind of really manipulate defenses and have patience, whether it was reading a double team coming and play out of it with that pass, whether it's just the simple kick out pass or whether it's a skip pass or if it's single coverage, just finish. And you saw a couple of, as mentioned, really forceful finishes, which shows you that, Graham sat that game out against North Florida. I don't think you need to read in too much of it other than the fact that maybe he was still feeling some lingering effects of 3 games in 3 days down in Vegas. And you got to make sure that he is right leading into the WCC. And that's as simple as that. So little overview there. We're going to be joined really soon by Luke Jackson, again, color analyst and former legend at the University of Oregon. But before we go there, big time thanks to our sponsors, Cooney's Thai up in North Spokane, some of the best Thai food I've had across this country. And right now, they've got some great deals on holiday parties for businesses and families. They've got some great gifts, ideas for gift cards. So check them out. I get their food on a number of occasions, whether it's takeout, whether it's sitting in the restaurant really quick for a quick bite to eat. They do a tremendous job. Whether it's their curries, their pad thai, their different appetizers, they do a really good job. So please support Cooney's Thai. Danena Family Law and Associates do a great job here in the Spokane area of helping families work through different circumstances within the legal system that they might need help with. So big time thanks to them. ICCU Credit Union, they've made a big impact here in Spokane since they've opened a little over a year and a half ago. They do a great job, whether it's commercial, business, and or personal banking. Don't hesitate to reach out to the team at ICCU. And then McGillivray Environmental, based in northern Idaho, but they do a ton of work in the Spokane area, ton of work western Montana. With the windstorms that we've just had over the last week or two, you might need some cleanup. They may be able to do that. Their specialty is preparing your site for different projects that you have, but no project is big or too small for McGillivray Environmental. So Kip and his team do a tremendous job. If you have any type of land surveying and or land preparation needs, don't hesitate to reach out to them. So big time thanks to our sponsors. We'll be joined by Luke Jackson when we return. Bulldog fans, we know basketball is all about teamwork, hustle, and having someone you can trust in the clutch. Life isn't much different. When challenges come your way, especially family matters, you need a strong team by your side. That's where Danena and Associates step in. They're more than just a family law firm. They're your advocates, guiding you through the hard fouls life throws your way with skill and care. In Spokane and beyond, Danetta and Associates are ready to fight for what matters most, your family. Call 509-325-0125 or visit padlawoffice.com to learn more. That's padlawoffice.com to learn more.
The world's leading immersive basketball training experience that combines in-person skill development with digital gamification and virtual competition. At Shoot 360, you will train with our coaches, measure your skills with our proprietary technology, and track your progress on the Shoot 360 mobile app. Shoot 360 Spokane. Unlock your game.
As previously promised on the Bulldog broadcast, the Field of 68 Media Network, Oregon legend, current color analyst on the radio, current high school coach, potential Zag back in the day, Luke Jackson joins the show. So, Luke, I appreciate the time. Let's just address one of those topics or one of those kind of headlines before we get into it. You were a potential Zag based on your connection to Coach Few years ago. I would have loved to have been teammates with you at Gonzaga. It didn't work out, but clearly you put together a heck of a career. What would that have looked like for you to have been a Gonzaga Bulldog?
Well, you're right. We do have a lot of connections. Mark Few is from my hometown, Cresswell in Oregon, small town, about 5,000 people, graduate from there. Another connection is Blake Stepp from South Eugene, who's just right down the road. I grew up playing against him. Played with a lot of Zags professionally. And so I am thrilled to see this game finally being played. I think there was one other matchup in Hawaii. But other than that, it's sort of been two of these West Coast powerhouses. Obviously, a few years back, Gonzaga makes it to the championship game. Oregon just falls short there in the Final Four. But a lot of history for me, and nearly a Zag. Telling Mark Few no was like breaking up with your girlfriend in high school over the phone. It was really brutal.
I can only imagine because, having played for him, he has this way of making comments that just kind of get under your skin and make you think about it over and over again. And I'm sure saying no to him after kind of going through that recruitment process was difficult. But you clearly made a great choice because Ernie Kent gave you, Luke Ridnour, Freddie Jones a lot of freedom. You guys ended up making it to an Elite Eight. When you look at this year's Oregon team, because you see them closely as a color analyst, I would love to hear your take. I see a team that sits at 6-5, hasn't played their best basketball yet because they've been injured, and mainly their three main guys, Shellstead, Kwame Evans Jr., and Nate Biddle, haven't been as efficient as possible. Shellstead's numbers look great, but he's not shooting it as well and kind of making plays for others the way that he's done over the last couple of years.
Yeah, you're hitting the nail right on the head with Oregon's Biddle, big three with Biddle, Evans, and Shellstead. Each one of them has been out at one point during the preseason. And to be fair to Coach Altman and the Oregon basketball team, they've scheduled a really tough schedule. They went down to Vegas and played some really good teams down there. A lot of teams will be sitting at 8-1 or 9-0 at this point in the season, but they really haven't played anyone. They've scheduled a D2, some really small mid-majors. I know Gonzaga traditionally has never ran from a big schedule and really scheduled tough games based on just their ability to go and compete there. Oregon has done that in the preseason. So they're sitting there a little bit banged up early in the season. Jackson Shellstead didn't practice for a long time with an injured hand. He's healthy now. Biddle had tweaked his ankle a little bit and sat out. Kwame Evans didn't play against UCLA. He was sick. And so over the last couple games, the big three's finally been together. They're starting to get into a rhythm, starting to kind of create an identity. And I think the scores kind of reflected with UC Davis and last night's win over Portland.
One of the big topics throughout college athletics is conference realignment. Oregon was a part of the Pac-8. They were Pac-10, Pac-12. Uh, I would imagine you're partial to it. Me, as a Gonzaga player that now sees Gonzaga moving to this new quote Pac-12, I wish that there would be a way to kind of regionalize things and figure out a way to keep the true rivalries together, the true leagues together. But I get that football runs a lot of things. What is your take as a former Oregon basketball player who had a ton of success in the Pac-10, Pac-12, looks at all of this realignment?
Well, it's definitely uncharted territory. Um, New alignments everywhere. NIL is a factor, and then football is really the rudder that steers the ship. I don't think that all of the shakeup is completely done. I think that we're going to see some. I think there'll be some changes over the next few years with regards to leagues coming back home in some ways. I think that it's a shame to have Oregon State with a 120-year rivalry against Oregon 45 minutes down the road not be in the same league. That's disappointing for me. But at the same time, I think Oregon has kind of found a soft landing spot in the Big Ten. It's a tough travel schedule. You can play at Washington and then fly out and have to play all the way over at Rutgers. The competition's amazing. The football is amazing, and but it is really, really tough when you're talking about 18 teams in a conference. How hard is it to be player of the year with that many teams? How hard is it to be first team all league when you're talking about that many teams? So is it completely fair all the way around? No, but I think that in the next few years, I think there will be more realignment, but Oregon, I think, has benefited from joining the Big Ten, and it's definitely a competitive conference when you look at the history of some of the basketball programs.
Everybody looks at Oregon as having the greatest gear in the country for college athletes. And a lot of that is clearly because of the Nike connection with Phil Knight. Um, are there any unique stories that you can tell about Phil Knight and his support of the Oregon program? Because Kelly Graves, the women's coach, used to be at Gonzaga. We've texted a number of times over the years because he's posted social media tweets or Instagram posts on just different unique Jordan lines that they have. How is that dynamic in your eyes as a player in Oregon?
Well, I think if you go back and you look at the story of Phil Knight, he was a distance runner at Oregon, and he's an entrepreneur to his core. If you go and read his book Shoe Dog, it kind of outlines his rise and kind of faking it until he made it and selling shoes out of the trunk of his car and building this global empire. And Oregon has definitely benefited from that. The thing that I love about Phil Knight is he doesn't just give to athletics, or he gives billions of dollars to, build scientific research laboratories. He funds all the academic programs. And we call him Uncle Phil because he's been so generous. A lot of schools will have an alum like that, but to be connected to athletics in the way that he is really, really special. And he's one of us. I mean, he went to school at Oregon, and then he's been gracious enough to be so generous as a player. to get all of the swag and to have different uniforms, different shoes, stuff that never comes out is special. I mean, when you look good, you play good, you're confident, and you know how important it is. We're both dads now, and we might be caught in some dad shoes, at Home Depot on a Saturday, but it's important for these kids to have the latest gear, to feel good, to be confident out there. And, Nike and Phil Knight certainly help with regards to that.
So you played at Matt Court. They're now at Matthew Knight Arena, which, if I understand correctly in reading the timeline and understanding the timeline, Phil Knight was a big benefactor of building that arena. I've called games there. I've played games at Matt Court. I've gone to games at Matt Court when I was a young kid. Oregon was my dream school. They didn't recruit me for whatever reason. Clearly, it worked out. But talk about Matt Court and how amazing that arena was, because part of me wishes that they just could have retrofitted that and it would have been an even bigger home court advantage for the Ducks.
Well, I obviously, if you think back to all the games at the old kennel and how that place used to get rocking, Matt Court was certainly one of those special places, and one of the oldest existing buildings in college basketball. If people watching this have ever seen a game at Matt Court, it's very similar to where Minnesota plays. Fans are right on top of the court. It only fits about 8,900, maybe 9,000. A lot of obstructed views, small wooden chairs. Everyone's just kind of in there breathing the same air, and it smells like popcorn and an old leather boot and the Great Depression in there, and it's just kind of a historic building that when we played, it was a 10-point advantage. My freshman year, Arizona comes in and they lost 2 games that season. They lost to Duke in the championship game in the NCAA tournament, and they lost to a 14-14 mediocre Oregon team that just had rowdy fans that were shaking the baskets. They had to stop the game because the baskets were moving during free throws. And so Matthew Knight Arena is building its own history, and arenas are remembered for the big games, and it brings back nostalgia. Like, I was there during that game, and it's certainly at capacity an unbelievable venue. One of the most expensive venues to build. It can house concerts. It can do a lot of things that Matt Court couldn't do. And it's a home court advantage for Oregon to play there now.
Big thank you to one of our sponsors, Cooney's Thai. My family and I live on the north side of Spokane, and we absolutely going to Cooney's Thai. Whether it is in person, whether it's takeout, the food is always phenomenal, as authentic of Thai food as I have ever had throughout my travels across this country. Unbelievable service, unbelievable price, unbelievable people that are involved with Cooney's Thai. Whether it's the pad Thai, whether it's the pad CU, whether it's one of their awesome curries, you will be thankful that they took great care of you. Again, Cooney's Thai on the north side. Check them out online today, cooniesthai.com. Whether you want to sit in the restaurant and you have tremendous service or order for takeout, it will be piping hot and ready for you when you show up. Thanks again to Cooney's Thai. McGillivray Environmental can handle any of your construction needs, specializing in new construction, repairs, residential and commercial asphalt paving, excavation, environmental mediation, and hazardous waste. Reach out to Kip McGillivray at McGillivray Environmental today at 208-556-6384 for your free estimate. So what does Oregon need to do to clearly get from 6-5 in underwhelming preseason based on some injuries? They go to the Players era and unfortunately go 0-3 against some really good teams, Auburn, San Diego State, within that mix. But what do they have to do to have success against Gonzaga and then tailor that into a successful Big Ten season?
Well, now that the big three are all back healthy, playing together, getting in rhythm, some of the new guys have some experience under their belt. They understand the difference between a good shot and a bad shot. The offense is flowing a little bit freer. I think they just need to go into this game and go in swinging. They've got really, I think it would be a huge win for Oregon to beat Gonzaga. Could be a springboard and kind of a pivotal moment in their season. Obviously, Gonzaga has got a nice high RPI and all of those things. It'll be interesting to see because I think Gonzaga will travel well. How many fans show up from both sides? I think it'll probably be a true neutral site because there are Gonzaga fans right there on the border. Some people are going to come to that game. I think that Oregon needs to rebound the ball well and continue to get out and score in transition. And then last night they had 23 assists, continue to share the basketball. They have really, really good interior passing bigs. So on double teams, rotating out of pick and roll, depending on the lineups, and then just make shots. Consistent shooting from some of the newer guys like Simpkins, Desrick Lindsay. If they can play as well as they played the last few games, I think Oregon's got a really good chance to win the game.
So you're a Northwest guy. Clearly, you know a lot of the history of Gonzaga basketball because of Blake Stepp. You and I have been friends for a number of years. Give me your all-time Oregon starting five, your all-time Gonzaga starting five, and who wins?
Wow. Well, I can think of the all-time Gonzaga starting five just as easily as I can think of the Oregon starting five. The tough one is who you put at point guard because University of Oregon has kind of been point guard you. You go back to Terrell Brandon, you got Luke Ridnour, Aaron Brooks, Peyton Pritchard.
Kenya Wilkins.
You're asking me to like lose some friendships over this ask right here. And then you've got some amazing forwards like Dylan Brooks, Freddie Jones, Marty Lunin. You go all the way back to the all-time leading scorer, Ronnie Lee, who played in the NBA for a while. I'd like to throw myself in the mix.
You're in the mix for sure.
Well, I think I'm number 2 all-time, still in the top most of the categories. Now, I think at the center position, you've got, I don't know, maybe Chris Boucher, who's lengthy, scorer, still in the NBA, shot blocker. I think that if Chris Boucher doesn't get hurt, probably Oregon has a real shot at winning that national championship the year that Gonzaga made it there. But I don't know if I can just give you a 5. I listed off quite a few guys there.
I'm the same way when it comes to GU. There's a ton of guys.
You don't throw, you put Blake Stepp in for somebody, he might not call you for a year. Or obviously you got Adam Morrison, Casey Calvary. I mean, who's yours? There's so many guys.
It's funny you asked me what's mine because years ago I was doing a broadcast for CBS Sports and they said, give me your all-time Gonzaga starting five. And oddly enough, I left off Adam Morrison and I got blitzed on social media. So both programs have so many good players over the years that unfortunately you're going to leave someone out because you just, in that moment, you forget about someone. But I think,
Dan, it's got to start. It's got to start with Stockton and Morrison, right? I mean,
I honestly,
are you going to put yourself over Stockton? That's the real question here.
No, I can't.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Then it becomes, because Coach Few typically has his best teams have a 2-guard attack, like ball handler attack.
Okay.
Do I shift to the 2, and does that move Blake out? Jalen Suggs, he's creating a great NBA career. Does he move to the two? He can't shoot it, or at least he didn't in the college game. But do you put him at the two? And you have all of these different questions that are going on. But I think there's a couple guys that are clearly entrenched for Gonzaga: Stockton, Morrison, and I would say Domantas Sabonis. At you could put him at the four or the five. It doesn't matter. He's just one of your bigs. So you literally have two positions. Um, I guess where I want to go with this is who do you fill those last two? And you could say me, I could care less. We've been friends for long enough. I
Yeah.
will return your phone call within the next couple days.
No,
Don't
I
worry
think you're
about
in the
that.
mix. You're in there for sure.
But then where does the Oregon lineup really go? Because I want to put you on the spot here. Terrell Brandon was phenomenal. Luke Ridnour is phenomenal. Just from my perspective, I would go for Oregon, Terrell, Luke at the two, you at the three, and then a guy like Marty Lunin or Kyle Singler at the four. And then I
Well,
don't know
EJ,
enough
we
about the
got
history of
EJ.
Oregon to go the five, to be
Well, we
honest.
got EJ Singler. We got EJ because Kyle went to Duke. We
That's
we
right. That's
missed
right. That's
we
right.
missed on Kyle. If we would have had Kyle, we let Kyle and Kevin Love leave the Northwest, and that was a shame for both of our programs.
Why weren't you recruiting those guys when they were coming up well enough?
Well, I was out playing in the NBA somewhere, and I don't know what happened there. Um, they both obviously made good decisions. Kevin going to UCLA and Kyle going to Duke. But I remember we threw a barnstorming game where we some of the best graduating college basketball players in the Northwest against the best high school talent in Oregon. Corey Violet comes off of an all league season and goes up against Kevin Love as a freshman in high school. And I think Kevin had like 32 points as a 15-year-old against an all league college player. And I was like, okay, this guy's the real deal.
Yeah. And it's super funny because they have very similar body types. They've got very similar skill sets, but that shows you the difference between a potential future all-star in the NBA versus a good college player.
Right. Yeah. Kevin has some intangibles that you're just born with. He was super polished. And Corey was an amazing player. We actually played together in the D League for the Idaho Stampede. Great guy, great former Zag.
Awesome. So, can I get you on record saying Oregon versus Gonzaga all-time players, who would win?
You know, let's lace them up, Dan. I mean, we want to settle this 20 years past, 30 years for some guys. I'm in on that game, undisclosed location, no fans can come, but we'll have to settle that. I don't think we'll ever know, but there's a lot of NBA talent there, a lot of Hall of Famers in with all those names, and I think it would be too close to call. It'd probably depend on if we're playing that game home or away because too much talent. You look at a guy like Stockton versus Terrell Brandon, um, Luke Ridnour versus you, me versus Adam Morrison. Those are great lineups. That's a game that I would have loved to have seen, but I'm happy that Oregon and Gonzaga are finally playing because it's really, to me, I think it's a rivalry that just has never existed before, and I hope they keep the game going.
Yeah, no, I love the fact that this game is finally on the dockets. I know there's been some discussion about, well, Coach Few graduated from Oregon, he didn't want to play. Then there was the talk about years ago, Oregon being very interested in Gonzaga as Coach Mark Few and vice versa about him taking over. I thought they found a terrific coach in Dana Altman. He's done a great job. And I'm looking forward to this game on Saturday. I said at the start of the year, this was the quiet game on their schedule that was a monster. And it is not shaping up to be that way because Oregon's had the injuries that you mentioned. The chemistry hasn't come together. But I think this is shaping up for a great game. And with that, I'm just going to go out there and I'm going to say Gonzaga by 11 on Saturday. Give me your prediction.
Well, it's just hard to bet against Coach Altman. Traditionally, he wins games that he shouldn't. He takes teams that are disoriented and maybe not in rhythm, and the next game they go in and beat the number 5 team in the country. If you look at Biddle at the 5, he's about as good a center as you're going to see in college basketball. Super versatile, can shoot it, block shots, finish around the rim. KJ Evans coming off of, 2 double-doubles. Jackson Shelstead is an electric, fast-paced player that can go off for 30 at any time. And I know Gonzaga has the same. I'm not ready to say Gonzaga by 11. I'll tell you that right now. I wouldn't bet against Oregon. They are going to be up for this game. Now, whether they're in mid-season form or not yet will be determined. But I know that they've got this game circled on their calendar where it may be a little bit overlooked by Gonzaga, who's got a tough schedule of their own. I don't know. But it's an interesting game from a program standpoint because both programs are competing over those Northwest kids every single year. So the game means more than just a win or loss. I mean, I think there's more at stake, and I think that's why we haven't seen that. Great points.
No, Luke, I appreciate the time. Unfortunately, I won't be there at the Moda Center on the 21st. I know you will be there. I might have to pull up the radio feed for Oregon as opposed to the radio feed for Gonzaga with Adam Morrison as a color analyst to get your take. So appreciate your time.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me on. I'll try to give you a few shout outs on the radio.